So I was sitting here reflecting on still getting over the fact I turned in 102 pages. It included my references, but it was still a lot. The minimum was 75. It was for a global economics class. And I took it back to back. Before that, I took financial statements and analysis, and that was also a 75-page minimum project. And I didn't want to do it back to back. I almost had my advisor switch me around. But I say all this to say, switch me around, give me the class I'm in now, employment law, because we're back to 5 pages due every Tuesday. I'm so glad. But don't get it twisted. That's not going to be easy. Maybe I'll tell y'all about that later. But I was thinking about global economics because when I sent my victory text to the few people who care, one of my friends was like, girl, how do you write 102 pages on global economics? And I had to give the glory to God, for surviving that. Y'all know the testimony from the other video. But what I was thinking about, my response, though, what automatically came out was, I said, actually, if anybody has studied economics, I know economics when you hear it on the surface, if you're not plugged in, it's not a sexy sounding word. It does not attract you. It's who wants to study economics? But really it's the study of behavior, consumer behavior. Wait a minute, get this. It's the psychology of it. And what we're doing is analyzing and predicting what the behavior is going to do. Because once we get those things going on, we pull that, then we know how it affects the way we do business. Come on. And those factors play into how well companies do, how well the cities, the states, the countries do, the regions do. And that's what it's doing. It's building upon precept. All of that come together. And that is why economics is so important. And so if you allow yourself to embrace it and not just say, I got to get through it, it was legit intriguing. And that's what made me tell my advisor that I was going to stick it out. What happened was the new term, the class started on a Wednesday, July 30th to be exact. And that's a Wednesday. And so Friday is when your first discussion board post is. So when I had my meltdown, I said, oh my God, I got another 75 pages due in 5 weeks. And I said, so when do you need my confirmation that I'm going to switch this class? And she said, well, Shanara, it's kind of not a matter of when. Like, if you're going to do it, you really need to do it now because, your first discussion board post is due Friday. So if anybody's in grad school, first of all, C's don't get degrees in grad school. A B is the bare minimum. And when you're in a program where your class begins and ends every 5 weeks, you can't afford to miss a point. You can't afford to limit. You got to make a decision and you got to start studying right away. So when you have to do your first discussion board post and it has to be 3 to 4 strong paragraphs and you have to have at least 3 citations or something in there, you don't have time to lament. So I actually allowed myself to read the first few pages of the econ book, and then I watched almost an hour of one of the videos. And I allow myself to get into it. And I realized, I said, I'm going to do this. I'm scared of the individual project that's due in 5 weeks, but I'm going to do this because I could not even front. I said, this is actually interesting. Now, I'm not a genius by a long. So there are people who have doctorates and they have theorems and theories named after them. And so I'm so far removed from that, but I can see why they went all the way with it, because it's so easy to see how every concept that I study affects every aspect of the world that we live in. And I realized how much I didn't know and still don't know, and how much most people don't know about nothing. So when people start, they were talking about the tariffs, the tariffs. Do y'all not know? Listen, do you know after one of the live chats that my professor did, I began to be pro-tariff. I know y'all hate that the man that is our president, but if you take your emotion out of it and you look at the economics, if you just look at the facts, my professor told me about, because he had his doctorate since the 80s, his first one. And he was talking about how the consumerism and stuff, the fact that we import so much here in the United States. All this foreign stuff comes into us all the time. Now, mind you, my professor is not a natural born U.S. citizen, but he loves America. And he said, he has a passion for wanting the American economy to thrive. So he says, I'm watching this stuff. He's in the 80s. He's a young cat at that time. He's like, listen. And so at that time, all Americans were buying all these foreign cars. He saw it happening. He said, but, do you not know those countries ain't importing American-made cars? They're not doing that. He said, and so he told us an example of how whatever billions of dollars Americans was, importing those foreign cars. He said, and the government of this one Asian company, just for kicks and giggles, they bought one Cadillac from America. So on the sheets, if you looked at the numbers, you had the profit of one American car was exported by this huge Asian country. And he said that's why the tariffs are important. We cannot afford to be consuming more than we're taking in. It was so much. And so that's the other side of me. I know a lot of my posts has been me being very real about how difficult it's been to maintain and get the material. But this last class, even though it took me through, I must say it's forcing me to think. So all they do is they have a lot of common sense things, but they got fancy terms for them, and they got a bunch of theories and a bunch of equations to predict as best they can. Yeah. They had this last slide. My last few slides I did for this presentation had to do with the Maximin rule, the mini-max rule, and all that is code for the best of the worst case scenario. And there's a formula for that. Listen, education is a thing, and I wish more people would take advantage of it. So that's all I come to say. I'm just rambling as thoughts come to me.